I'm sorry. I'm sorry to is it Joy? Someone messaged me and said, Doug, you have to get rid of this music. But I'm stuck with it now. We can't change it. If you hate this music, just view it as your tithe. Your tithe, your payment, your sacrifice to watch this show. If you love the music, then you love it. Let's see who's here first. I really appreciate the people who are here first. They are more important than other people. They have more value to society than other people. How come I get two conflicting... Myron, I got Moon Shoes. What do you have? You have Danny? No, I think it's Moon Shoes. Is that right? Yeah, Moon Shoes is here first. Danny is second. Yes. 10,000 Pine Points to Moon Shoes. Getting very close to winning a free trip with me to Las Vegas. He's still about... what do you think? 900,000 points away? Yeah. Danny, 5,000 Pine Points to you. 1,000 Pine Points to Sandals. That's a new name, right? Sandals H. Welcome if you're new here. And Emil Wetzel. As vice president of the Wichita office, I had to seat Myron out with a brain cell before coming on. Well, it doesn't matter what you have to say, Emil. No one's going to listen to you now because you're the biggest loser here. I mean, you probably like curling. I actually love curling. Curling's a wonderful sport. But the purpose of this live stream is I got a tea time. I got to leave here in 1 hour and 40 minutes. So I thought I would just hop on. I got some spare time this morning. Here's an opportunity for Christians, Muslims to ask their questions of me. And I guess the atheists, you dirty, dirty dogs, you can ask me questions too if you want. This is an opportunity for the vegans to say, why do you want to rape cows? Because milk and cheese taste good. That's why we rape them. Yeah, damn you, Myron. But yeah, I do think apologists are losing. They're losing badly. Like I just watched Apologia's video on Bart Ehrman telling Habermas he's wrong on so many things about what Bart Ehrman thinks, and Bart Ehrman should know because he's Bart Ehrman and he knows what he thinks usually, unless he's drunk. I mean, you just see this time and time again, apologists pretending to know things they don't know, trying to raise the confidence in believers, and it's futile. And it's because we live in the Enlightenment. It's because we don't see demons and angels everywhere we look. Times have changed, at least here in the civilized world. Doug, that's racist. Yeah, I'm a good racist. I strongly suggest PineCreek takes CC to Vegas. No, CC could be capturing Christianity or it could be a Canadian Catholic. I don't think I can afford to take Canadian Catholic to Vegas because I just don't have enough money to feed him. That's cruel. I'm a bad guy, as Billie Eilish said. Tag me if you have questions, or you can press the link above and come in and ask your questions face to face. I just messaged a guy named Caleb. What's his name? Caleb Jackson. I talked to him on Digital Gnosis's channel. He sounds like an interesting guy, and that he's not too needy. He might be intelligent enough, and his neediness might be low enough that we can be in the talk zone. We can actually have a conversation. But I warn you, like most Christians that you'll encounter on the street, their neediness is high, their intelligence is average to below, and you can't talk to them. You just can't. You might be able to ask a few questions here and there. Most pastors are average to below average intelligence and are very needy. That's why they're pastors. Smart people don't become pastors or politicians. Unless they just really do it for the entertainment value. Does philosophy of religion count as real philosophy? Asked Ray Fay. No. I'm sorry to hurt your feelings, but I do not value philosophy of religion at all. I think anybody who studies philosophy of religion, whether you're a believer or not, you're wasting your life. Unless you're doing it for entertainment. You just get like a dopamine rush from it. Because, then that's fine. And you don't, and if you are okay without having money and providing for your family, then by all means, go into philosophy of religion. Great question, Ray Fay. But if you are studying to become a philosopher in religion right now, just look in the mirror and tell yourself you're making a big mistake. Did CC really do a bad thing too? Meant to disable? Oh, I don't know. And I'm not gonna touch that. It's so dang silly, says Michael McLendon. Like, at the end of the day, he wants bona fides for name-dropping airmen, a man who doesn't think Jesus rose from the dead. Yeah, airman is very dangerous. Like, just the other day, I watched a very old series from, I don't know, a decade ago on the New Testament. If you watch that, if you're a Christian, you watch that, and your neediness is low and your intelligence is above average, you're out. You're out for historical reasons. Let me be clear. Christian thinker, what do you think that there are verses in the Bible saying we are predestined for salvation and names were written in the book of life before the world's foundation? Well, that Christian thinker, that's why there's Calvinists. Because of verses like that. And there's verses like that because it helps bolster the idea of grace. It's pretty much determinism. If God has written your name in the Lamb's Book of Life before you could even make a choice, I don't know how that works, then you cannot choose otherwise. It's set in stone. No, Doug, no, there's compatibilism. Okay. Do you think that the reason why apologists learn sophisticated philosophy, generic theism, to compensate for how weak the intellectual foundations of the religion is? Ray Fay, this is not batting practice. I didn't come on here for you just to lob softballs at me and me just go out of the park. Like, of course that's the reason. You know that. It's much easier to talk about philosophical arguments for, let's say, God's existence than actually have to look at the text and say, oh yeah, it's more probable than not that a man rose from the dead. Have to disagree, Doug. Oh, finally, someone disagrees with me. NDH Films. Have to disagree, Doug. My first class in college was philosophy of religion. I learned a lot from it. Wouldn't recommend it as a major. Well, I understand. You learned a lot from it. You learned that it was a waste of time, right? That's what you learned. So maybe we don't disagree. Man, Jesus just texted me again. I tell you, he never leaves me alone. He's like a needy high school girl. Look at this. Jesus says, PineCreek, why haven't you returned my calls? So needy. Hey, Chen. Good to see you here. Come on, if you have a question, if you want to come in, Christians, Muslims, I got a tea time. Yeah, I got to leave here an hour and a half. So don't tarry. The Lord might come any moment. Clean Sweep asks, I have recently started going back to church. I'm sorry. For the sake of my wife and kids who are religious and for a sense of community which is enjoyable. Does that make me a hypocrite atheist? No. I couldn't do that, Clean Sweep, because when I go to church, I have a habit of making people cry. But if you can do it and make people happy, then all the power to you. But yeah, I cause women and children to weep. Not Calvinists though. Calvinists can handle me. Most convincing argument for theism. Oh, well, a good start would be if Jesus would light up my water-soaked napkin in front of all my live stream viewers. But currently, in the past, I just submitted the other day that I think the argument from beauty is emotionally the most powerful. Apologia uploaded a response with Aram and PineCreek. Street Disciple, go stand in the corner. I already talked about that. You must have come here late. My goodness. Thanks for the donation, Talaver Heath. Your opinion needed. In Luke 4:16, Jesus reads from a scroll. Why would Jesus read from anything? I like you, Talaver. I like the way you think. If Jesus is God and hasn't limited his omniscience, at least when it comes to morality, he knows what's best more when it comes to morals, right? You would think he would know what's on a scroll before he even reads it. But maybe he's just, I know what it is, Mr. Heath. He's showing an example to the kids that you should stay in school and learn to read. Because back then, like, only 10% or less of kids could read. I hate the way Canadian Catholic puts his shirt over his chin. I asked him about it, and he said he was ashamed of his double chin. Either that, or it could just be insecurity of conflict, because he tended to do that when I was asking Habermas questions that were kind of, I know, some people view it as aggressive. I don't view it as aggressive at all. Like, just because Habermas is a historian, I don't feel intimidated one bit. I don't think he needs to be lauded. Actually, is even Habermas a historian? He calls himself one. No, you just ask your question, and if he answers a question you didn't ask, you let him know it. Atheists, non-Christians, if a Christian apologist is asked a question and starts answering a question that you did not ask, stop them and say, great answer, but not to the one I asked. They don't deserve respect if they haven't earned it. Little PP asks, why are apologists losing? Look at the data. The data's in. As apologetics goes up, Christianity goes down, at least in the United States and Canada, I think. But it would have gone, I guess one could argue it would have gone down way more if it wasn't for apologetics. And apologists are losing because they haven't been able to bring their neediness down. And if they can't get rid of their neediness and insecurities and defense mechanisms, and they need to stop using words like mock and attack. They should welcome it. Mock me more, attack me more. I don't care because I have the truth. Like they need to almost have that attitude, because once you start feeling like you're being attacked, you go in defense mode and people pick up on that. Young kids, they can see that. They can see the insecurities. PineCreek is ghosting Jesus. Tag me if you want to ask me. Click on the link if you're not scared. Most of you are scared, though. Have you ever come close to reconverting? No, not even a scotch. Well, Neuro Poster, you know I used to be a Christian, right? A professing Christian. But since I left Christianity, not even the slightest. I'm being honest. Not even, oh, did I make a mistake? None of that. Might be different than some other atheists, but no, not even once. Once you've gone into your parents' closet and you've seen the presents there sitting on the closet floor, you cannot believe in Santa anymore. And I've seen those presents on the floor. But thank you for your question, Newer Poster. How do you make people cry at church? By asking extremely simple questions. That's how. For example, I know this is just one that popped in my head, but to get Christians just to admit that there's no firsthand accounts of the bodily resurrected Jesus, just ask them. It's similar to, they can, after many, many years, Christians have been able to say, yeah, the word Trinity is not found in the Bible. Just get them to admit there are no people who say, I saw the resurrected Jesus. Paul's your closest one, maybe John chapter 1, but Revelation chapter 1. Both Paul and Revelation chapter 1 are clearly visions. Clearly. Paul doesn't even talk about the Damascus Road experience. This is another thing. Christians assume Paul talks about that. I mean, that experience described is in Acts, not Paul's letters. He just says he saw the resurrected Jesus, that Jesus appeared to him after he went into the clouds. When's the last time I was in church? That's a good question. I think the last time I was in church was I don't know, a decade ago? Hey, Kamil.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear, like your Blue Yeti.
Too loud?
No, you're perfect today.
All right. Yeah, I just wanted to say I watched the Apologists video as well, and I just want to say this is a great example of how information changes through oral retelling. Like, imagine if we had a first century technology and Gary Habermas made the same claims to his students. How many of his students would have the motivation, the time, and the resources to go find Bart Ehrman and ask him whether he's correct, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And also the other scholar that Habermas quoted is Gert Ludemann, who is already dead. And imagine if we lived in an oral culture and he didn't leave behind any writings. What would you then? What did you do then, right? Like, would you try to, for example, find his students and ask them if he's being properly represented?
Yeah, let me back up here for the people who don't know what you're talking about. For people who came late, basically, Apologia played clips of Habermas saying stuff of what Bart Ehrman believes or thinks or says, and Bart Ehrman just said, "No, I've never said that. I don't believe that." And can you imagine how easy that would have been to do between 30 AD and 50 AD?
Yeah, and imagine Habermas said that 30 plus years after Ehrman's death. What would you do then? Right? What would you do then, right? Yeah, this is just a proof of concept for the kinds of mechanisms that people are proposing as some of the mechanisms behind how religions like Christianity developed. So that was really interesting.
Yeah, and this is the reason why apologists are losing, is because we can fact check them.
Yeah, which we can't do, right, when it comes to claims from 2000 years ago. And I mean, like, it's important to realize that these kinds of distortions of information are happening all the time, even when people are still alive. So how much worse it is in an oral culture with technology that makes information much more difficult to disseminate. Like, I'm wondering if we could go and talk to all the Christians who watched the original stream put out by Capturing Christianity, where he interviewed Habermas. How many of them are going to see the Apologia video, even though it's directly relevant? Some of them, hopefully a lot.
I'd say 10%, maybe 20. It's because if Christians who like respect and admire Habermas watch shows like Apologia or mine or yours or whatever, I mean, they have to start doubting. Like they have to lower their respect for guys like Habermas. I don't think they have a choice. Hey, Tacit Reticence, thanks for the donation. If Keener were to appear on your show and answer your questions without an intermediary, that might be proof of the miraculous. Yeah, I agree. I mean, Keener just needs to be asked some very simple questions. And I think his whole worldview would start to crumble down. I mean, the gullibility that Keener has is just unreal. And the thing is, I kind of respect Keener more than Habermas because at least he'll say things like, well, I guess Habermas will admit it too when pressed, but that the Gospel of John, most of it, Jesus probably didn't ever say. Doesn't he say things like that?
I think so, yeah. I think he's one of the evangelicals who thinks that the Gospel of John changed the day of Jesus's resurrection for Jesus's crucifixion for theological reasons. I would have to check that, but I think he's one of the guys that don't have any problems with that idea.
But it's precisely because he believes in the miraculous that he lowers his need for the historical to be true. I truly believe that.
Yeah, he also, I think, thinks that the Gospel of John was written by an actual eyewitness. So if you think that, then yeah, you know,
Habermas or Keener?
Keener.
Keener thinks it's still written by an eyewitness?
Yeah, I think, if I'm not mistaken, he thinks that it's written by John. But again, I would have to check that. We actually, like for people who might not know, we did like a 9-hour stream
I saw that.
on Sunday on Nathan's channel, and we went through some of the like interviews with Greg Keener, and we looked at some of his miracle claims, and it was actually shocking how bad they are, even the best ones that they put forward and that they actually published in journals.
Like, for example, what did you look into that made you say it's bad specifically?
Well, it's really interesting that there is infrastructure and a lot of money behind gathering these kinds of claims, putting together medical evidence and turning it into reports that are publishable. And yet, just a couple of guys that don't even have like a complete medical training. James Fodor, for example, has a degree in biology, but he's not a physician. With just that level of involvement, that level of free time, and that level of knowledge, he was able to come up with like very plausible naturalistic explanations for the events. So yeah, like it's actually quite shocking. If the best thing that they could put forward is this poor, what are most of the cases that they don't even actively publish. And even in that stream, we found out, or we highlighted, how their retellings of some of the miracle cases changes the details, right? So even that is like a proof of concept of how these stories are circulated and how they change. Like you can see that with every retelling, the details are changed only slightly, but they are changed in a particular direction, right? To make the miracle sound more interesting, more appealing.
I have to
make it more difficult to explain.
I have to admit that I actually get mad when I couldn't watch a lot of your stream yesterday with Digital Gnosis because it makes me mad because of what happened to my sister and so forth. It's like I don't know how to say this forcibly enough. Apologists, shut up. Until you can light up a water-soaked napkin, shut your mouth. Until you can say on let's say March 1st, we're going to go to a graveside and pray in the name of Jesus and raise someone from the dead who's been dead for a year. Shut your mouths. You have nothing. You have nothing. You don't have any miracle verifications at all. Until you can do stuff what I just said, shut your mouths. You're hurting people. You're giving them this idea that they're healed when they're not. Okay, my rant's over.
Yeah. Well, the second part of the stream was us going over Habermas's video, so maybe you can watch that. But that was just very technical, like nitpicking it. But I have to say this, right? So Habermas has a training, and he now has an entire career behind him. And he put forward a video with new evidence where he basically summarized some of the things that he is probably going to put into his new book. And I was really surprised because I had an impression that he only discovered these things as he was doing research for the book. But the things that he was talking about are actually mainstream in New Testament scholarship for a very, very long time. Like his main talking point is that Christians had a high Christology from early on. But this isn't new, right? The new things that he says are, they have been around for decades, right? And he says, okay, this isn't new information, it's just newly packaged, right? But the way how he talks about it really makes me think that he has only discovered it recently. And Cameron asked him some questions, like some clarifying questions about some of the historical details. And for some of the things, Habermas didn't know the answer, which I find shocking for someone who has a PhD and an entire career behind it. And I noticed that the things that he didn't know off the top of his head may, like, it's indicative that the way how he operates is that he only gathers pieces of information and retains them in their memory to the degree to which they are able to be used in a case for the resurrection. But this is not how a historian or a classicist who is genuinely interested in understanding the first century Greco-Roman world would operate, right?
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
an apologist first. That's
Yeah,
yeah. Hey, thank you for the donation, Val3Y. Can you talk about your problem with philosophy and philosophers in more detail? Yeah, it's very simply that in my experience, philosophers, people who love philosophy, are horrible communicators. They tend to hide in nuance when asked very simple questions. They get bogged down in definitions when a lot of times, sometimes it's needed, but a lot of times it's not. Um, yeah, it's just, and because we're in the Enlightenment, I really do think most people value empirical evidence over philosophical type evidence, in quotes. It's like, show me the money. We don't have to talk about money. Show me the money. And you
yeah.
did by the donating $4.99, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, that being said, I have to say there is a general sentiment sometimes that unless you can present an information very succinctly and very briefly in like a short period of time, you either don't really understand it or the information is not legit. And I have to say that's not true. Like there are things that are really, really complicated, and it's difficult to turn them into TikTok videos. For some things, you just have to read a book. Like, sorry, still in the 21st century, right? So I would have to push against that a little bit.
Well,
A lot of
but
the
I'll push back on your pushback by
okay,
bringing up Sean Carroll, where he does those
right,
videos of explaining quantum to an 8-year-old level, 12-year-old level, and so forth. I think if you understand something very, very, very well, you can summarize it and explain it so an 8-year-old can understand.
yeah, well,
But here's the problem with apologists and philosophers. They hate. They have a neediness inside them to give complete answers when it's not necessarily needed to give complete answers, and they just think, well, it's this whole idea. Well, if I don't say a whole paragraph here, then someone could take me out of context later and say, I believe this when really I don't. I get that, but who cares? Like, you can always explain it later. And so always start with the headline and then give the details afterwards.
yeah, right. Yeah, I think in most cases it's probably true. But there are just some things that you have, like, it takes a book to unpack them.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for the donation, Joshua Banker. Thank you for introducing me to Bart. I introduced you to Bart Ehrman. Where have you lived? Under a rock? I am going through his book on heaven and hell. When I was an evangelical Christian, I wouldn't have been able to handle it. Why wouldn't you be able to handle it? Just the fact that it would cause you to doubt whether these places exist? But yeah, I think Joshua reflects a lot of Christians that they can't watch certain channels because it literally becomes a horrible feel. It's like being nauseous. In fact, Digital Gnosis admitted to me a long time ago that when I when he came on my show, he was literally nauseous for like days.
Yeah, I can imagine that. And people say that from time to time. Imagine how they must feel when they hear someone like William Lane Craig say that Genesis 1 to 11 is mythohistory, right? Like that must be because they have intellectual resources to dismiss Ehrman, right? They'll say, okay, well, he's just like blinded by his sin or whatever because he's not a Christian. But like, imagine that you are a reasonable fundamentalist Christian and you have been idolizing William Lane Craig because you think he has never lost a debate and he debated like Christopher Hitchens and all these guys. And you wake up in the like one day morning, you open the internet and you realize that he's basically the same as any
But this gives
atheist scholar.
like William Lane Craig deserves credit because he's smart enough to realize that he's having this effect on people, and he does it anyhow because he believes it's true. And so kudos to him.
Because he's now all close to retirement, so
should I let Canadian Catholic in?
Sure.
Do you want to stay for this?
Sure.
Okay, hang on. Let me change the room size. But as soon as I change the room size, there's like a 1 hour countdown timer, which is fine because I got to go golf anyhow.
Hi, Doug.
Hi. So hang on. Before you start talking,
Yeah.
I just want to let you know that I'm coping today really hard.
Well, no, not just coping. I mean, I understand that. You always do, but I just want to share a couple of things. First of all, I think Mr. Kamil, I don't know him, and all respect to him. It's just
Kamil,
I apologize. I don't know him, and I'm sure he doesn't like me because I don't know. I just assume that anybody who's on your channel doesn't like me.
Well, I was told you were a rapist, so that doesn't help. I don't know if it's true, but...
Do you want to talk about that, Canadian Catholic, or no?
Yeah, I have raped Matt Dillahunty's brain. I have raped...
Oh, good response. Good reply.
So I guess I am a rapist. That's the joke I make. Of course not. That's bullshit. Nathan made that nonsense up to kind of slander me. I don't know why.
Is it true that you confessed on like a Christian forum or Discord server or something like that for Catholic confessions that you rape a girl?
No, of course not. That's nonsense. Made up nonsense.
What? It's not on tape?
No, it's nonsense.
Didn't Nathan provide a tape?
No, it's nonsense. There's...
What's the explanation? Was it someone else pretending to be you?
Or... Oh, no. So me and an atheist were having some kind of a discussion about morality and what would it be like. So, for example, if I rape somebody and they never notice, is that wrong or something like that? And people have taken that out of context and made nonsense about me being...
So it was a hypothetical. It wasn't a real...
Yeah.
So it wasn't a website for Roman Catholics to make confessions online?
No, that's made up nonsense.
All right.
Anyways, so the reason I came in here is, well, first of all, both of you are completely wrong. I'm sorry, I have to say
about
that.
What?
So, with people like Kamil, I want to remark is that when Dr. Hatton, and I have no interest in defending Gary, even though he's a friend and a really good guy, but I'm going to say this, it's just complete bullshit when people like Kamil say that this idea that high Christology was known is just a well-known idea. I meet a bunch of people who've been lied to by people misrepresenting Bart Ehrman. I'm sorry, PineCreek, I'm going to advertise this. Bart Ehrman is coming on my channel today. But anyways, I know you hate when I advertise others, but come on.
No, that's all right. What time today?
At 3 p.m.
Eastern.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask him conclusively about your idea, whether he thinks that he's debunked Christianity, to which the answer I know already is going to be no. But that's fine. I'm going to simply say this. People like Kamil have been lying. I'm sorry, I have to say this. Because...
lying about what? Be specific.
So Kamil said specifically that when Habermas says something like that high Christology was the original idea or something like this is well-known fact, and he doesn't have to go into this. That's bullshit. I encounter a bunch of people that have been lied to by people like Kamil, that, you know, you see this progression in the Gospels, that in Mark, Jesus isn't God, and in John, Jesus is God. But when the admission will be made that for Paul, which is writing decades before Mark, Jesus is fully divine, as much, I guess, as he can be, that whole idea collapses. So we have to get the word out that you guys have been lied to by people like Kamil, right? That's one.
Wait, okay, I want to make sure I'm understanding you.
I want to finish this.
Okay, quickly.
Okay, so secondly, Doug, I think you reinforced my conviction that you're anti-intellectual because you said that apologists need to shut up before they can light up napkins. I mean, I don't know how anybody doesn't laugh at this. I mean, I'm sure this was a joke, but this is a joke.
Miracles. I'm talking about miracles.
Okay, sure. And now number three that I wanted to make a point, kind of slipping my mind, I guess. What was number three? Oh, yeah. This bullshit that people like Kamil make up. What is this? So they make up this nonsense that, people like Ehrman, I guess, or biblical scholars have this secret knowledge that Christians are scared off. Let me tell you, it's nonsense, okay? I don't know how old, maybe 10, when I knew of textual variations, and anybody presenting this as novel information that your preacher is hiding to you is lying. And Kamil is one of those people who's lying, and other people are lying. I'm sorry, I have to accuse you. I like you, Kamil. You seem like a nice guy, but I mean, you've been lying.
Okay, let's take the first one, okay?
Right. Okay.
Kamil was saying, and Habermas was saying, Kamil was quoting Habermas and saying that there was this view of high Christology before that predates Paul.
Yeah.
So you're agreeing with Kamil then?
No, I'm disagreeing with Kamil when Kamil says that that's a well-known fact, as if Habermas doesn't have to bring that up. What I'm saying is he has to bring that up because people have been lied to. People have been told over and over again that you have this progression from Mark to John, and this explains everything, as if Mark started making stuff up and John finished it making up. And when the confession is made that Paul already had high Christology, that whole bullshit collapses, and people like Kamil have been perpetuating this lie. So yes,
I mean, those two claims are not mutually exclusive, right?
No, that's not mutually exclusive.
It's not mutually, like it is in fact the case that Paul has what we would call high Christology, right?
Right.
But that doesn't necessarily contradict the claim that there is a theological development inside the canonical gospel.
Okay, so
both of those claims are true at the same time.
Sure, but when you clarify that, the effect becomes much duller, right? So because people want to say this, that people just made up, right? We started with Mark, he wasn't God, and in John, which is lie, by the way. Bart Ehrman teaches that in Mark Jesus is God, but when it develops up to John, you get this God. So you have this easy development, and now when the confession is made that no, that development doesn't exist, and at most all you can make is that it exists in the Gospels, that Jesus followers from the earliest times we have evidence believe that he was divine, fully divine, as in pre-existent being. Well, then that bullshit collapses, and we won't have.
But Bart Ehrman was not saying that. Bart Ehrman was saying that idea didn't exist pre-Pauline, right?
I think Bart Ehrman.
I'm responding. That's not what I'm responding. I'm responding to this idea that people have to come out and say the truth, right? Stop lying. Stop telling people about this idea of, we can just simply neatly go from Mark to John. No, you can't, because you got Paul before that, and now you have.
Yeah, I think Bart Ehrman would be the first, and I think he actually mentioned that in that Apologia video. He would be first to admit that in the PineCreek, especially in Philippians 2, Jesus is a divine being.
Yeah.
He has morphet how.
But he's not Yahweh.
Yeah, he's
that's a trivial point about Jesus being Yahweh, because for Bart and others, Yahweh is just God the Father, and if Yahweh is defined as God the Father, we agree. Yeah, he's not Yahweh.
No, but I'm saying I think Bart Ehrman would argue that the people of that time did not view Jesus as equal to the being Yahweh.
But again, that's a trivial point, right? Because
that's the Trinity.
No. So for people like Bart, Yahweh is simply analytically equivalent to someone like God the Father. So yeah, that's true. But Bart will say, for example, that Jesus and Yahweh share the same name, or he was given the name above every other name.
But he was exalted equal to God at some point after his birth.
That's not Pauline theology.
Oh well, it's in Philippians 2.
The idea that Jesus was exalted.
But Philippians 2 said that Jesus was exalted because he emptied himself and became obedient. The Creed gives an explanation for his exaltation.
If you have to be exalted, that means you're not God to begin with.
Yeah, that was a change in Jesus.
Gotcha, Canadian Catholic. You're done.
He went from not being exalted to being exalted. Like it doesn't.
I saw that look in
well with classical theism. But I'm sorry, it's just what the Creed says.
I saw that look in Canadian Catholic's eyes when I made that comment, and he knew, like, defeat. He just looked defeated.
I'm not defeated. What do you mean? Like, people, I have this book right here. Look, I'm going to be talking. Look, the issue is simple. The issue is simple. People like Kamil, and I have nothing but respect for Kamil. Like, I mean, he looks like a nice
You have
guy.
respect for liars? You just called him a liar earlier, but now you have respect for him?
Well, let me just say, he works in a field that encourages lying, so it's only partially his fault, right? I mean, it's not
What
like
is the field?
counter-apologetics. So he wants to...
Okay.
Are you going to deny that you're in counter-apologetics, Kamil?
Well, he's
I
on
mean-
my show, so I guess in that sense, yes.
Aren't you a counter-apologist against atheism?
I'm not an apologist at all.
Aren't you a counter-apologist against
No.
atheism?
I'm not an apologist of any kind.
You don't defend the Roman Catholic Church?
I mean, not in the apologetic sense. I'm not trying to convert anybody.
You don't give it a
Why
defense?
not? Don't you have actually a divine command to convert people?
Okay, so I would be happy to convert people, but that's not the goal of my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is to explore bad and good ideas, and it so happens that your ideas are bad. I'm sorry, it's not like my fault that your ideas are bad, right? I mean, I'm not trying to make your ideas bad. It just so happens your ideas are bad, right? I'm sorry. I examine them, and they come up short every time.
Which idea is bad again?
But like whatever you spouted about, apologies need to shut up before they light up things on.
I said that,
fire.
not Kamil.
Yeah, your ideas too, as well.
Yeah, I do, and I tell you, I stand by that.
Camille,
I agree with that as well. So if you think that's stupid, you have to apply that to me.
Yeah, Canadian Catholic, do you ever talk about miracles?
Of course.
Yeah, I'll say to you, you need to shut up until you can light up my water-soaked napkin or pray in the name of Jesus as someone who's been dead for a year comes back to life.
That's anti-intellectual.
Don't give me back pain. Don't give me cancer remission. Don't give me all these silly Roman Catholic tropes of a statue crying. No. Shut up with that stuff and show me the money.
Okay, well, I mean, that's anti-intellectual. So you're happy to be anti-intellectual. That's fine. I have no problem with
It's
that.
anti-intellectual to ask for real evidence? Oh, my goodness.
But I mean, you get the point. But I'm going to just say one more thing before I go. I think that Kamil, again, is a nice guy. And I know no matter what I say, he's going to go and complain about me and cry about me. And that's fine. I have no problem with that. But I'm just going to say one thing, right? I mean, Kamil has been perpetuating this stupid myth about, like, how Christians are afraid of reading biblical scholarship or something. So I made a video not too long ago about Bart Ehrman, about how he sometimes portrays stuff. And again, I'm not a tech guy. I love Dr. Ehrman. He's like a great guy. I own his books. So this is the newest one I've just got.
Just get to the point. None of this side stuff.
He's been I was criticizing him because like Ehrman sometimes presents this idea of like textual variance as if some new thing that your preacher is hiding from you, and Kamil was like, "Oh yeah, preachers hide this stuff because they're afraid of deconversion." I just want to say that's bullshit, right? That's just
you don't think that happens, let's say, even one out of 100 times?
Maybe very rarely, but that's bullshit. Everybody,
it's not bullshit for the ones that are rare, then, right?
I've said this before. I was as sheltered as you can imagine anybody being. Okay,
that I believe.
Younger Christian, yeah, I swear. And I knew about these. I swear, I promise. I'm gonna be honest. I was more sheltered than all of you combined. Okay, you literally can't get more sheltered than me. And
I believe you.
Yeah, like younger creation, non-denominational, and I knew about textual variance when I was 10, 11. So don't give me this bullshit about preachers hiding it from you. This is nonsense. This is a lie. And
so would you dismiss the eyewitness testimony of former Christians who say that this was the case when they were Christians?
No, I wouldn't. But I would say that those Christians were ignorant and those Christians are lazy because those Christians.
Yeah, so I'm talking about lazy and ignorant Christians when I say things like that.
You're talking about preachers who supposedly hide this information that nobody wants to come out. This is a lie. You got to come out.
How many Christian pastors do you know, preachers, preach some of Dennis MacDonald's work from the pulpit?
Why does that matter?
Well, you're talking about like preachers don't hide things, that they give both sides. Is that what you're saying?
No. They don't have to give both sides. Preachers don't have to preach Dennis MacDonald's theories or hypotheses, right? They don't have to, right? All that has to happen is this, right? All that has to happen is they don't hide it. Okay, you open up your Bible, you see a bunch of manuscripts and variants. Nothing there is hidden.
No, well, what we're talking about is the hiding part is not giving the other side to your flock, not giving the criticism. In other words, a preacher can go up behind the pulpit and actually say things that can lower the confidence in his flock, but it's still true in the sense of these are the critiques against certain theological or historical beliefs.
So when you say that preachers are when you say that we claim that preachers hide books, are you imagining that we are claiming that they literally take the physical books and hide
No,
them
no, no.
somewhere?
So what you're no, I don't.
Do you
So
think they
you're
organize
maintaining
book
this idea
burnings?
that
Because
these
some preachers actually do organize book burnings, even today.
This is just refusal to get the point, Mr. Kamil. Okay, now you're just refusing to get the point. I've been saying this before. The idea that people are hiding information that is easily accessible and you have to watch Ehrman to see through it is bullshit.
What do you mean by hiding?
But what I mean by hiding is not telling you or trying to tell you otherwise than it actually is.
Oh,
that's definitely true.
that's
then.
definitely
Like,
hiding then.
Yeah, if hiding means not telling you that they are hiding it, yeah.
Okay, this is just made up nonsense. Okay, I've told you before. I'm more. I was raised more sheltered than all of you combined. I mean, homeschooled up to college, literally. I mean, unschooled probably, and I knew about this stuff.
You're giving the anecdote. If Camille and I are right at least one time out of 100, then we're right one time out of 100, and you can't make this blanket statement like it never happens.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
there are former preachers who talk about it.
Okay, so I mean, former teachers.
I know a pastor.
Former preachers who talk about it.
I talked to a pastor about a couple, I don't know, 2 years ago about how Paul purposely changed quotations out of the Old Testament. And I asked him, would you be willing to stand in front of the pulpit on a Sunday and talk about the differences between some of the Paul's quotes of the Old Testament and what the Torah actually says? And he said, yeah, I'm willing to do it, but not on a Sunday morning, maybe in a small Bible study setting. He just came out and admitted to me that it's not a good idea to talk about these things in front of the general mass of people. And I'm going like, wow. Like, if you really want to turn Christianity around, don't be scared of these things.
I'm not.
I know. I'm not saying you are, but this pastor was. But anyhow, thanks for coming on, Canadian Catholic.
God bless, God bless.
I'll watch you and Ehrman later.
God bless you.
Science bless you.
Yeah, I mean, if they are not hiding it, then that's great, right? I actually do want people to read it. So the less preachers hide it, the better it is.
Thanks for the donation, Kali. I love how CC is trying to get under Camille's skin and it's not working. No,
I don't really understand the first point that he wanted to make, because that like some people have the idea that there is like a development where Mark started with Jesus being a person, just like a guy, a man, and then it's like ramped up over time to the Gospel of John. But that's not really like how scholars think about it. They recognize that there was a plurality of different theological views from the very beginning. And yeah, like the pre-Pauline creeds, and Bart Ehrman thinks that as well, reflect a belief that Jesus was a divine being. He wasn't a hypostasis of God's nature, which is a later Trinitarian concept, but he was a divine being, the same way how angels are divine beings, how military commanders in God's armies are divine beings and stuff like that. How Satan is a divine being, but not a hypostasis of Yahweh or God.
Thespian Mike, what do you have to say?
I just think it's so silly. I mean, I'm not an expert, but you can see the kind of the cognitive dissonance, the double down effect, or whatever you want to call it, play out in real time right now in front of our eyes all the time. You know, it's like people get evidence to the contrary of something they think or believe, and they react in a way that doesn't respond to reality. You know, it's like it's fairly obvious what's happening here. And also the other thing about like how pastors present Christianity and the historical evidence and so forth, like of course there. I mean maybe lying is a word that kind of assumes a motive or something, but like to act as if in evangelical Christian churches, as if we're doing this kind of difficult biblical scholarship that like, you know, that lines up the text horizontally, that like Bart Ehrman does in his book, the Jesus book, the one I read, I forget which one it's called, but you know, they act like as if pastors are doing that kind of scholarly work. No, they reference a Greek word every now and then. They have this like at least in my experience, anecdotally, they have an air of intellectualism, of historical whatever, but they don't present like Bart Ehrman does. They're not teaching a New Testament class. They are doing the work that the people in the
They're
Bible are doing, which is creating religious polemics about what they believe to be true, not what is actually true.
well, and they most of the time don't even do that. What they're doing is trying to help people who've had a really crappy week get through the next week. They're yeah. But anyhow,
Yeah,
I got a lot of people want. Thanks, I agree with you 100%, Mike. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Kamil?
No, I just want to say that I wouldn't be surprised if more
Normal, ruhig auf Fragen antworten.
going through manuscript variants and talking about literary devices and stuff like that. No, people go to church because they get something out of it, like something positive for their lives, right?
Yeah. Sorry,
of course, that's not even like a good opportunity to get into the kind of information.
I had you muted there a little bit because Andre, you're live now. What do you have to say?
Oh, I just wanted to. I wish that first point is that atheists would keep their calm more, like you guys did when such passionate theists called in. That would be amazing if it was the other way around more often.
But if the theists were calm?
Yeah. I mean, like Gary Habermas. I mean, he got on the defensive and all that, and
that's the power of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, so that was the first point, but the more, I guess, substantial point was that that I think theists should be, at least ones which are very active in social media and all that, should be put under more scrutiny. I mean, I don't know any atheist who has basically, I don't know, spent years on social media or stuff like that promoting atheism and then come out and then it turned out to be he was actually a theist. So at least we know that people who are atheists, they actually believe what they say that they believe, but we have so much concrete evidence, even all theists would agree, that we have so many theists who in the end turned out to, well, they were just doing it for profit. And I think there's not enough scrutiny. And I think Doug, you're very generous. You always say like, well, I believe that this person is actually honest, and I think that that's amazing that we always give them the benefit of the doubt. But I think the evidence is on the table that, as far as I know, I mean, there's no logical reason why any atheist would lie his whole life knowing that, okay, I'm going to go to hell, but I'm just going to make a few bucks trying to lie to say that I'm actually a theist. So at least atheists are definitely honest in their beliefs, even if
I wouldn't be.
they're wrong.
I don't know if I agree with you here. I wouldn't be surprised if there's at least one example of someone claiming to be an atheist for years, playing the long game, then becoming a theist so they can write a book about, I used to be an atheist. I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, and I don't know for sure if this is true, but it wouldn't surprise me. But I do think there are definitely a lot of apologists, preachers, pastors who truly believe what they're spouting. And there's definitely some pastors who don't, and they're doing it just for the money. So it's a mixed bag.
Yeah, I'm seriously doubting that Lee Strobel, for example, was an atheist. Because when he talks about how what he thought when he was an atheist, supposedly, he basically was the strawman atheist. He says things about his atheism that no atheist actually says, but that are exactly the things that evangelicals believe about atheists, right? The only thing that he doesn't say is that he used to eat babies when he was an atheist, but that's about it, right? So either he's deliberately misrepresenting himself and how he was and what he thought when he used to be an atheist, or he's just telling evangelicals what they want to hear.
So what's the long game? I mean, you spent many years lying that you are an atheist, but really you believe. So I mean,
No,
is your long
I
game just
think
trying to
he.
convert more people, or
No, I think it could be the case that when he says that he used to be an atheist, that's not actually true.
but isn't like lying anyway? Like that's one of the commandments. That why would you lie knowing that you're
Is
breaking
it
one of the?
always immoral to lie?
Sorry,
Is it always immoral to lie?
I'm not sure. Does the Bible say it's always moral to lie? I forget. Is that one of the
That's a
commandments?
good question, right? Like, ask a Christian, would you lie to Nazis when you are hiding the Jews?
Hmm.
A lot of Christians would actually say, yes, I would lie to Nazis about hiding Jews.
And
So for a lot,
Inspiring Philosophy admitted that Jesus lied in the Gospel of John because his time had not come. He said he was going to go to a feast, and he didn't. And he did for morally sufficient reasons, so because it wasn't his time to die.
Doug, did you actually know that Paul admits to lying in one of his letters, the authentic letters? He's talking about the collection of money that he's gathering for Jerusalem, for the Jerusalem church, and he says that he was lying to one of the people so that the person about how much they have already collected, so that the person would give him more money. So, like, even in the Pauline epistles, Paul basically admits to lying. But he thinks it's okay because he's doing it for a noble cause. He's doing it to gather more money for the donation. And actually, a lot of Christians use that specific passage to argue that whether lying is moral or immoral is contextual. So I can definitely see someone like Lee Strobel lying because he thinks it's making his case stronger, his case for Christ stronger. Or he could just be a grifter because he's worth millions of dollars because of the books and movies that he sells.
But Andre, to get to your bigger point, I think there's hypocrites. That's human nature.
I guess my point is, I agree that is a point. Yeah, yes, if you think like in the long run you're lying for your religion and for faith, and somehow they'll be best in the long run, maybe. But I don't think there are any atheists who are theists and are doing this for the money. They're doing it for the money, but then they actually believe this, because there's no way. Like, I'm just thinking, if I actually believe in heaven or hell, there's no way I'm going to try to make money selling atheism, because always in the back of my mind is just going to be that it's not worth it. You're actually going to hell.
Yeah, but what you're really arguing is that atheists are better than theists, right? In this area.
I'm saying there's way more evidence for theists in disguise than atheists in disguise, and
you could be right. You could be right, but to me, it's like no big deal.
Well, I just think that it should be put under more scrutiny.
Like, we already know that there's grifters, there's people who are posers. Yeah, we already know this. So, but anyhow, thanks for hopping in.
Yeah, have a good day.
Kamil, we got Nathan here.
Hi.
Speaking of grifters.
How do you defend yourself against the accusations that you are lying about CC being a rapist? That's a very, very serious accusation.
This talk is not allowed on Doug's channel, according to Doug. Oh, is it allowed? Am I allowed to?
We did talk about it roughly, but I don't. It doesn't really interest me.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, it's bad if he did rape, but did you watch his thing? What he said?
No, I didn't. No, I've only just come back. I just rented a car, and it's a nice new car, but it doesn't have a normal handbrake. It has a button for a handbrake, and that's been really sort of weirding me out. So I've been trying to train myself to use the button rather than like reach for something, grab.
Why do you need a handbrake?
Hill starts.
You live on a hill?
No, well, like Glasgow's pretty hilly. Like,
yeah. See, I was raised on the prairies. Backwards. The only time we used a handbrake was to do like 360s on ice just for fun.
Yeah, but you don't. If you're in static traffic, you don't just ride the clutch, right, to stay in the same position.
Oh, you drive a stick?
Yeah.
Come on.
Everyone does in the UK.
You're in Europe it's normal. Like automatic is actually very rare.
Is it because they can't afford it or what?
Yeah, it's more expensive, and I think it's because it's difficult. Like it's more difficult to use manual, so people are hesitant to switch to automatic because then they are hesitant to learn on automatic because then you wouldn't be able to drive manual.
Oh man, I never knew the UK was a third world nation.
I think it's to do with manuals being more reliable, the gearboxes as well. But maybe that's not true anymore. But I think it was true like 10 years ago or 20 years ago or something.
No, with Japanese and German technology, you don't need to drive a stick anymore. You can even buy. Well, I was going to say even semi tractors you can get automatics, but maybe not. But
Who's that?
who's that? Is that your mom?
I've got a new girlfriend. No, no, it's someone who you've talked to before.
Well, that's V.
No, there's Autumn's visiting us from America.
Oh, Autumn's there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
So you let strange Americans into your house?
From time to time, if there's any strange Americans watching.
Because she probably has a gun on her.
That's true.
She's American.
He says you've probably got a gun on you.
Oh, probably. No, I meant a gun.
Oh,
Hi, Autumn.
Nope, just a phone. No gun.
Okay. Anyhow, did you want to say anything else of worthiness?
Can talk about anything. I mean, I could talk about that thing if you want to, but I'm happy to not talk about it as well.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll boot both you then, since you're not contributing anything to society, and then I'll leave it open for theists if they want to come in, because they're not going to come in if you guys are here, because you guys are terrifying. It's like they don't have a chance. But yeah, thanks for hopping on.
See you, Doug.
You have to be productive. You just don't come on here with your pretty face and... Okay. Matthew wants in. Hey, I remember you, Matthew.
Hey, what's up?
You're the philosopher guy.
I don't know that I deserve that title, but I am interested in philosophy, so.
Okay, and so did you come in to talk about philosophy?
Well, so I just saw that you were doing a live stream, and it seemed fun to join.
Okay, but I booted two really smart guys off for just not really having anything productive. So you got to be productive here. What do you say something to amaze?
Okay, so I'd be interested in challenging your stance on moral realism. I remember we talked a little bit about that last time. So
am I a moral realist? Did I say that?
No, you said you're not a moral realist.
Okay, well, I lean that way, but maybe it's true.
Yeah. So one basic argument for moral realism is that I take morality to just be about the things that we would care about if we were completely rational and impartial. Does that seem like a reasonable definition?
Sure, but I'm already starting to get bored, and it's only been 10 seconds.
Oh no! Okay, well, I'll have to.
Let me see if this helps. Is there some moral law that's real that we Homo sapiens are gravitating towards, and that we can say is always wrong, no matter the situation? Sure, maybe. Do I believe, even if that is the case, it's maybe, like, for example, what's the normal example of stomping on a baby's head for fun? It's the for fun part that makes it wrong. Stomping on a baby's head to save the world might be the moral thing to do, but it's the for fun part that makes it wrong. And is that a real moral objective thing that is true no matter what the time? Maybe. That's probably pretty close.
Well, so I obviously wouldn't go so far as to say you should never stomp on a baby's head. I think you should almost never, but
no, for fun though. Would you say that there's a case where it's okay to stomp on a baby's head for fun?
I can't think of one.
Yeah, see, maybe that's an example of moral realism right there. I'll give it to you.
Well, so I think for moral realism, so we didn't have to say that there's any specific acts that are always wrong. Rather, so I'm a utilitarian. So what I think is that it's always right to do the thing that brings about the most overall happiness for conscious creatures. And so,
For what percentage of them?
well, so what makes it so that the overall happiness is higher?
Okay, so as long as it's 51% or more.
Well, no. So it's not about what. So if something in harm,
I hear you. It's net, right? So if some people suffer, but it's for the net well-being, it's good.
Correct. But it's not just about benefiting the majority. It's about maximizing overall benefits.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, okay.
But what does this matter though?
Well, I don't think that it has. So it has a few relatively unimportant implications.
Like if you're utilitarian, there has to be a pragmatic difference it makes.
Okay,
Right.
so one pragmatic difference that it makes is that it makes it so that when deciding upon a moral theory, we'll care more about the theoretical virtues that we care about when it comes to scientific theories.
Okay, but
So
when I hear moral theory, I'm not thinking pragmatics anymore. I'm thinking people sitting in a chair and smoking cigars. Like, let's talk about legislation. Let's talk about how it actually impacts people's lives. What difference
Yeah.
does moral realism make?
Well, so moral realism makes a difference in that it has implications in terms of which normative ethical theory we should accept, and which normative ethical theory we accept has important implications.
Okay, so how do we know what is morally real?
Well, so I think that we solve it the same way that we solve other problems in philosophy. So we
That's a horrible answer. Because
we analyze the arguments on both sides. We sort of look at things.
the way we solve problems in philosophy is we take a cigar and we light it up, and then we talk about it, right?
Well, sure, and that's how we would come to solutions about moral realism. I mean, ideally we would be able to sort of have more reliable beliefs.
You know how I think we've done it in the past, which has made it so we progress to where we are at today, where we don't have slavery anymore, and we let women vote. It's through trial and error.
Sure. That's one way.
It's like we have this idea. It seems to me that maybe we shouldn't own people. Let's try it. Hey, we have a better society now. It seems to me maybe we should have women vote. Hey, let's try it. Hey, the world didn't crumble down around us. Everything's fine. We're okay. So why do we need philosophers talk about moral realism? We can have this, like as Sam Harris says, this social contract idea. We can try things out, learn from our mistakes, and move on.
Well, so Sam Harris is a fan of objective morality, and I think that if you look at many of the utilitarian philosophers, were generally far ahead of the curve. So, for example, Jeremy Bentham, who was the earliest modern utilitarian, he was writing in favor of legalizing homosexuality in 1798. John Stuart Mill was the second member of Parliament to advocate.
That's because he was gay.
Well, I mean, that's possible, but there isn't very much.
It's more possible than him sitting on a couch philosophizing. But I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that's probably
right. But John Stuart Mill was the second member of Parliament to advocate giving women the right to vote, and he was not a woman. But the early utilitarians were all opposed to slavery when most people were in favor of slavery.
So you're saying that I should become a moral realist because it will help maybe change the world faster?
Yes, it'll help bring about more. Well, so moral realism I don't think has as important of implications as utilitarianism does, but I think utilitarianism has very important implications. There's a movement called effective altruism that it's not exclusively utilitarian. Sorry, effective altruism. It's not exclusively utilitarian, but it's about using evidence and data to figure out the statistically most cost-effective ways of bettering the world. And so it turns out that the cost to save the life of a person who would otherwise die of malaria is about $4,000. And so, effective altruists, myself included, think that it's important to sort of give a lot of money to very effective organizations that can dramatically better the lives of lots of people at a very low cost.
Okay. Very good. I'll give you the last word. I got Omar, who's a Muslim, who wants to come in, and I got like not too much time left.
All right, I don't have anything else to say. Thanks so much for having me on.
No problem, Matthew. Take care.
See you later, Doug.
I like you.
Take
I
care.
like you.
Like you too, Doug.
Now leave.
Okay.
So I can let Omar in. Omar. You're on, Omar. Just waiting for you to figure out you're on. Moral realism. Quote this guy, quote that guy. Reading the chat now, catching up. Some people were asking about Pauline. It's in 2 Corinthians 9, 1-5. Bible's up. 2 Corinthians. Omar, I can't hear you. Come back in. Bible Gateway, easy to read version is the way to go, because if you don't have the Holy Spirit in you, you can't read it otherwise. Yeah, we'll see if it just comes out. Hey, Omar, I think I can hear you now.
Yay, finally. Took like 4 videos for that to work.
Oh, really? So what's
Not really, no.
what's new with you? What do you want to say? Oh, I know what you want to say. You want to say, why aren't you talking about those 15 things I sent you? Right? Didn't you send me a list of 15 reasons to think the Quran's the word of God or something? And now I lost you. Okay, 2 Corinthians 9, 1-5. That reminds me of Dolly Parton. 2 Corinthians 9, working 9 to 5. I'm still listening to you, Omar. I can multitask. 2 Corinthians. Why is it taking so long to find this? I really don't need to write to you about this help for God's people. I know that you want to help. I've been bragging about you to the people in Macedonia. I told them that you people in Achaia have been ready to give since last year, and your desire to give has made most of the people here ready to give also. But I'm sending these brothers to you. I don't want our bragging about you to be for nothing. I want you to be ready just as I said you would be. So I thought I should ask these brothers to come there before we do. They will help getting together this generous gift you promised. Then it'll be ready when we come. I'm not seeing the direct lie here. Omar.
Hello?
Yes, I'm giving you 2 minutes. What do you want to say?
Yeah, I see the 4 minutes time. Hey, so hi, first of all. Hope
Hi.
you're well. And I sent you videos, by the way. Did you end up checking them out?
They're all boring.
Well, really? They're just not easy to criticize, you mean?
Well, no, they're
I saw you pick one. I saw you put one. You were about to put one, but then I don't know. You got distracted in one of your videos.
You believe a man got the very words of Allah because he says so?
Not at all. Not at all.
No.
But I think the idea.
Did I just straw man you?
No, not necessarily. It's not because of a man said so. I had also gave you 15 reasons why I believe so, which we can also discuss.
Yeah, and I
way,
reject all 15.
Who, me and you? You and I? No.
I reject all 15.
Oh, well.
Like, name 3 off the top of your head, and I'll tell you very quickly why I reject it.
Well, it's a very, very suitable way to understand God. A very simple way to understand God compared to other religions. That was actually the first reason.
What?
Yeah.
That's so silly.
Why is that silly?
You're saying one of the reasons to believe the Quran is the word of God because it's a simple way to understand God?
No. One of the reasons I believe Islam is the right religion is because it introduces or it produces a very easy way to understand.
Okay, all you have to do is ask yourself questions like this, Omar, to help think critically. if you found a religion that had a simpler way to understand God, would you switch?
How can you get more simpler than proper tawheed?
You notice you didn't answer the question I asked.
But how can you get simpler?
See, you're not answering the question I asked.
I don't find a way you can get simpler.
So you're basically saying I can't conceive of it, therefore it's a bad question.
No, I'm saying until you could provide me with an example, then I will actually understand your question more. I don't understand your question because you can't get simpler.
What if someone came up with an idea that just looking at a tree is the simplest way to view God and made a tree religion? That's very short.
Investigate.
You know,
we'll investigate. We can talk about why that tree cannot be God.
The Muslim has the Hadiths and the Quran. This guy named Myron came up with a religion that's 1 page long, saying that God is a creator God, nothing more. Look at a tree. That's the simplest way to view God, the creator God. Way simpler than Islam. I mean, you should switch to treeism.
There used to be people that worship trees once upon a time.
Yeah. Did I lose you? I think I lost you again. Okay. I mean, I don't know what to do with people like Omar. This whole idea of Islam is the most simple way to view God. No! You can conceive of way simpler ideas, and not for 1 second would you think that's a good reason to switch or to think that that religion is true. Yeah, connection was bad, Omar. I think you dropped. But we were out of time anyhow. I got some time left, so I won't take any more calls, but I'll just bother people in the live stream chat. Are there any Christians here who have a question to ask me? How can you believe something came from nothing, you atheist? I don't believe that. See, questions like that, that's what I want. Like, throw me a softball and I'll just hit it out of the park for you. Actually, I think I'm debating Trent Horn sometime in March. I wanted to do it like right away, but he's busy. I think he has his Myron looking for dirt on me. And so I'm going to play this. Why be Catholic instead of anything else? Omar, this is for you. You're a Muslim. This is why you should drop Islam and become a Catholic. Let's take a listen to what Trent Horn has to say.
Hello, Dan.
Hey, how are you?
Great.
I'm agnostic. I grew up in a Southern Baptist church. My dad's a preacher, actually.
Okay.
And I guess, really, I just don't understand why there's so many different sects of Christianity and why Catholicism is the right one. Because I believe there is a God out there, or gods or something, and I've experimented, if you will, with other religions, Buddhism. I've read the Quran.
He's read the Quran.
Most of the Bible. I've checked other things out. Christianity still seems like it's what's right to me. I just don't.
Catholicism is Christianity. What's he talking about?
Right. So, Dan, you look at all the divisions, all the multiplicity of denominations, and it seems one big chaotic soup. And if Jesus Christ was God, surely he would have arranged maybe one church and keep it simple.
Oh, talking about Omar, this is for you. Keep it simple.
Okay.
Like that, yeah.
Sure. Trent. So it sounds, Trent, like if you make the case for Catholicism, Dan will no longer be an agnostic.
Yes, or hopefully we'll be moving away from
I doubt that
inclination. Dan, I think I would say that the diversity in religious belief can be attributed to many things. I wouldn't attribute it to...
I would say it's attributed to sin.
God, I would attribute to people might obey or disobey God. They may trust in their own pride or their own reasoning and reject God's revelation, and that's essentially what happens with heresy.
But no, the leaders of the Roman Catholic Church, they would never be prideful.
Heresies, and I guess I would say this, that you and I seem to agree that Christianity makes sense. God became man, the man Jesus.
Christianity makes sense. God became man. Yep, that makes sense.
Nazareth. He died on a cross and he rose from the dead. But as he promises us in the Gospel of John, I would say that Jesus didn't leave us as orphans. Not only did he leave us his spirit, but he built a church. Matthew chapter 16 describes this happening, and he says to the Apostle Peter,
And it happens to be my church.
He changes Peter's name, and the guy's name was actually Simon, and he changes it to Peter, which comes from the Greek word Petros, which means rock. And he says, you're Peter, you're rock, and on this rock I will build my church. And what the Catholic Church teaches is that there's this unbroken chain of bishops and popes going back to that first century. And the other churches we see are branches that have come off, people who have disagreed with the church about theology.
We were the first, so we are the best.
And other things like that. But the church itself has maintained this unified belief for 2,000 years and has continued to spread God's word. And I think that there's many things that boast for the Catholic Church being the church Jesus started. And if this is the church Jesus started and Jesus promised it wouldn't fail, then...
Oh, you Baptists out there. You're not the church that Jesus started. You Pentecostals out there. You're not the church that Jesus started. You Presbyterians out there. You're not the church that Jesus started. Stop it.
then I would believe him. So do you have any other thoughts on that or anything else I can try to help you with?
I mean, I guess that makes sense, but at the same line, if the Catholic Church is right in all their doctrine, because, growing up Southern Baptist and getting away from that, it is extraordinarily different because we don't pray to any saints. In fact, we don't really have any saints. There's no...
Yeah, those darn Baptists, they don't pray to saints. They don't pray to people for help. They don't pray to Mary for help. They don't keep statues on their walls that are prone to tear up.
There's no bishops, no popes, none of that. And I don't know. I understand hierarchy, and it makes sense that there would be hierarchy. I just don't understand. Like, if you're a Baptist, are you going to hell because you're not a Catholic and you don't believe the same things? Or how would that work?
Well, Dan, I can envision 89,000 additional follow-up questions you could ask.
Okay, here's an example. This young man just asked a question. I'm not a Catholic. Am I going to hell? Answer the question. Just say no or yes.
Trent, about that. The salvation of non-Catholics is a very interesting one. We've covered it many times.
This is why people are leaving Catholicism. Just answer the question.
Trent, what about starting with your book and then invite Dan and people listening to go to our website?
What a cop-out.
I mean, Catholicism is such a myriad of
yeah. Am I going to hell for not being a Catholic? Well, it's an interesting question. Why don't you read Trent Horn's book? On sale for $9.95 on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, Dan, I think that what you're saying is, well, what my church believes is different than the Catholic Church. Wouldn't you and I agree we should try to believe what Jesus and the first Christians, what they believed? Would that be a good goal?
Yeah, and that's why I'm swinging or curious, I guess, about the Catholic Church, because it is the first church.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is a good question you can ask. You can actually Google this question and see a neat chart about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like this whole first is best type idea, I think, is not always true. The first car really sucked. I would rather have the latest car.
It's called Who Started Your Church? I believe John Salza actually came up with this, but other people have put together lists. You can see the different times in history in the 19th century and the 16th century. Different churches are started by Martin Luther or Calvin or John Smith or Joseph Smith, Mary Baker Eddy. But only the Catholic Church can say there's an unbroken chain that goes back to Jesus Christ himself.
An unbroken chain. Is he talking about Eusebius quoting Papias, which we don't have any records, quoting a guy named John, which we're not sure which guy that is, quoting a guy named Matthew or Mark, and if it's Mark, quoting a guy named Peter because he was associate, and then Peter's quoting Jesus? Is that the chain you're talking about, saying on this rock my church is built? Eusebius to Papias to John to Mark to Peter to Jesus? Yeah, unbroken chain. Amazing.
And that has retained the valid authority for all the bishops, including the Bishop of Rome, who's the Pope. So if you want to, you can go to our website, Catholic.com, and you can search for tracts, search for church fathers, and you can read what the very first Christians, people like Justin Martyr, Saint Irenaeus, these are the first generations of Christians, what they believed, and you'll...
Who cares what they believed? Seriously. The real question is, are the core claims of Christianity true? Right? And do we have any good reason to think that a man said, hey, everybody, I'm God. Look at me. I'm dying for the sins of the world. Look at me. I'm walking on water. Look at me. I'm doing miracles. I'm God. I'm going to die, and I'm going to rise again. And I did it. Look at me. Hey, Thomas, put your fingers in my holes. Eat fish with me. The real question is any of that stuff true?
Find, Dan, that they believed very closely to what Catholics today believe. They believe that the Eucharist is the real physical presence of Jesus Christ. They believe that baptism isn't a symbol. Baptism really regenerates and saves us from...
Yeah, this is nonsense. We're in the Enlightenment, Trent. To think that eating a cracker and drinking some grape juice, you experience the Creator God, to think that you put H2O molecules on a person's head or body, you're doing something that the Creator God wanted. I mean, it's really hard for me not to say stuff like, this is 2022. I mean, it's maybe a good start for 2,000 years ago when people believed there was a God for every issue on planet Earth. The early Christians a lot of them were pagans who believed anything. Superstitious pagans. And it's no doubt that a lot of Catholics are so superstitious.
Believed there should be priests and bishops, and one bishop is preeminent among them. That would be the Pope, the Bishop of Rome. So go to our website, Catholic.com, and just search for church fathers, first Christians, and
and they never did answer his question. So I'll ask it to Trent Horn today on February 21st. Anybody who's not a Catholic, are they going to hell? I think he's going to say no. I mean, I think he'd say some Christians are not Catholics and still inherit the kingdom of heaven. I hope he says that. It's an easy answer to give, but why didn't he just give it right there? I know why he might be hesitant to give it right there, because if it's true that this Baptist fella, or no, he said he's agnostic. But if it's true that a Baptist can go to heaven and he doesn't need Catholicism, he doesn't need to respect the Pope one bit, or these bishops in the whole line of hierarchy. If it's true you can go to heaven without respecting any of these people in purple robes, then why do it? Maybe that's the hesitancy. Am I still taking callers? No, I got a tea time and I got to leave soon. But you can ask questions in the live stream chat for a few more minutes. Tag me. The answer is no, says Joshua. He's a Catholic. So the answer to the question, can non-Catholics go to heaven? The answer is no. Is that the question you're answering? Trent has said this many times. The answer is no. Wow. Is that true? Pentecostals, Baptists, Mennonites, Presbyterians, Anglicans, and even Anglicans are going to hell? My goodness. And what is hell exactly? The Roman Catholics think it's a really bad place, just almost as bad as the Muslim hell, right? Catholics, you need to grow up. You need to grow up. There is no hell. There's no good reason. Let me rephrase it. There's no good reason to believe hell exists. Oh, hang on. I'm getting some... Oh, it's Habermas on the line. He says he agrees with Trent Horn. There is a hell because of NDEs. Yeah, people have died and gone there and reported back. I believe he was asking if non-Catholics go to hell, not if they go to heaven. Oh, yes, David, you're correct. Good distinction. Just because you don't go to heaven doesn't mean you go to hell. Because in the Catholic theology, there's not just door number 1 and door number 2. There's door number 3, 4, 5. Who knows how many doors there are? Someone should make a meme on that. Let's make a deal. And you open the door and you know it's not hell. So do you switch doors? I don't know. In your perspective, what makes something a lie? Would you use what's its motive? Knowing something is wrong and you say it anyhow is a lie. But I think motive is a big part of it. Purposely saying something that you know not to be true. Yeah, purgatory. And I know where the Catholics get this idea of purgatory. It's because there is a verse in the Bible that says praying for the dead. I forget where it is. You can never... The debate on the Trinity is a useless one. If you're a Unitarian Christian, to try to debate someone who's a Trinitarian, you must just go play golf instead. And vice versa. You're not going to convince it. They can go to heaven, says Joshua. Okay, so Baptists can go to heaven. That's what I thought he would say. But you were adamant. Okay, never mind. This whole heaven, hell, in-between, purgatory thing. I agree with Tovia Singer, the Orthodox Jew. You know what he said? He said that Jews don't believe in such nonsense about using heaven and hell as carrots and sticks for belief and consequences and what's at stake because it's not falsifiable. Instead, you use blessings and cursings. You use health and wealth. If you obey God and you become healthy and wealthy, there's your evidence. This is what Jews believe. They believe in the blessings and the cursings. And if you don't obey God, you'll become poor and sick. But unfortunately for the Jews, they figured out that didn't really always work because the Romans were so powerful and they believed in pagan gods. And so they come, and this is why Christianity came around. One of the reasons. Most real atheists will just go on their way. No, Walter, no. You light up my water soap napkin and my whole world will change. You raise someone from the dead who's been dead for a year, my whole world will change, especially someone I know. Don't give me this such and such place in Zimbabwe. Someone was blind and they received their sight in the name of Jesus through this organization funded by Christians. I mean, don't give me that stuff. I'm serious. Craig Keener's book is worthless. It's worthless. Until you can say, next week at this time, we're going to pray to God to light up water-soaked wood, to bring people back from the dead. There's going to be TV cameras there. There's going to be Jews, Muslims, Hindus, atheists, Taoists, whatever, from all over the world to witness this, all the biases put together, one big pot, melting pot. We're going to see which God is real. And even then, we're not sure because of correlation, causation. But we can at least say, hey, we prayed, and a few seconds later, it happened. And then repeat it every 3 months. Then Craig Keener can write a book. But until then, just because you have one claim and you multiply it a million times doesn't make it more believable. I don't know. I don't know what to do. How do you convince a guy like this that everything he holds dear may be false? How do you convince a guy like this that his hope, what he gets, his hope, meaning, and purpose is all based probably on a lie, on propaganda? How do you convince a person like this who gets, I think, the majority of his income from this belief? How do you convince a person like this whose wife and family, at least a lot of his family, probably believe the same thing or similar things, especially his wife? How do you convince a person like this who thinks that without this belief, people will end up in chicanery and debauchery, and they'll lose their moral compass? How do you do it? You know how you do it? The flying man. That's how you do it. If atheism makes Doug happy, why bother about theists? Oh, no. Bothering theists makes me happy. Let's get that straight. There's a saying. Forget the saying though, so I won't bring it. I like to bother apologists and pastors and preachers, but the average Joe Blow Christian who comes on my stream, you guys have seen this. I'm very nice to, very kind to. A lot of times they'll say, "Stay a Christian," unless they're like causing direct danger to themselves and others. And there are some Christians like that out there, and Muslims. Omar, you know that. There's some dangerous Muslims out there. If theism didn't exist, atheism wouldn't exist. Getting close to 15,000 subs. Am I? Yeah, look at that. Doesn't make a dent. You know what? I think part of the reason why my subs are so low is because what Christians do is they know my name. They just type PineCreek. They don't have to sub. But if I had a weird name like 376 Apple 42XZY, more people would have to sub to see my stuff. Right now they just type in PineCreek. Yeah, you're late, Bill. Go stand in the corner. Atheists seem so sad. Some do, but there's a lot of Christians who are sad too. Christians suffer from depression and anxiety. Did you know that, House of Comments? Some Christians commit suicide. Some Christians cry out to God on a daily basis. Why, God, why? What is your will for me? At least atheists don't have that problem. Your subs are so low because you're not enough of a DOM. Dominate, dead. What's DOM stand for? Yeah, if you want to bother a Christian as an atheist, be happy. Let them know you don't need their belief to be happy. Ooh. Poof. Okay, I got a tea time I got to run to. Thanks for hanging out for a couple hours. It's been fun.